NBA. Well, no, we got some college basketball free winners, but we do have the total at offshoreinsiders.com. Joe Duffy's picks. Perfect 4-0 this bowl season in 2020 after getting off to a phenomenal start, of course, in the bowls on 2019. So a great start, a great finish to the bowls, to NBA, and more at offshoreinsiders.com. Let's take a look at the Idaho Potato Bowl, Nevada and Ohio. As I said, I always like to take a look at how far teams travel, looking for what I like to call a neutral field advantage. And this is not a true neutral field. Ohio's got to go 1,777 miles, Nevada just 338. When you have a battle of two unranked teams, go with the team with go with the team with a plus 80 margin or better over their last two games. Yes, go with the team. The reason is I like to give both sides, but this disagrees with my actual pick. That's why I confused myself very briefly about my notes. But yeah, go with the team with a plus 80 or better margin over the last two games is 179, 118 and 9. That would favor Ohio, including 9 and 4 outside the regular season. So fairly rare when it happens in the bowls or the conference championship games, but still wins when it does. Now you can make a strong argument that Ohio is much better than their straight-up record. That's one of the things I preach time and time again. First of all, a lot of our winning systems are counterintuitive, and especially counterintuitive when you look at the deceptive straight-up records. I keep saying so many times, nothing is more overrated when it comes to handicapping than looking at straight-up records, unless you realize that in reality, the line it's overvalued, and of course you're aware of that when you do handicap. Ohio's 6 losses were by a combined 41 points. So despite that 6-6 straight up mark, the Bobcats actually outscored teams by 7.7, as opposed to Nevada with just a plus 1.4 margin despite one more straight up win. And teams with a 5 points or better points per game margin over their opponent, despite an inferior straight up record, go with such team 353, 301 and 10. That would of course say to favor Ohio. But when you have a bowl or a conference championship in which you got big neutral dogs with more wins, they're actually a pretty good play at 57, 33 and 1. Fading postseason teams off of a great defensive effort, 135, 101 and 5. That would favor Nevada, but got to tell you the full story. Not so good this year at 5 and 14. Ohio's actually the biggest consensus play of the postseason, the fourth biggest consensus play of the postseason at 74%. The three ahead of it include the national championship game, but the two that have been played, it's 1-1. But still, the second strongest in terms of money bet at 80% on Ohio. And the game that hasn't been played, Clemson, is the one that's ahead of it. So the contrarian would say go with Nevada. Now, Nevada did fire 3 defensive coaches, including Jeff Castile. And they do have some suspensions on defense. Jeff Castile, the defense coordinator. Got to do my shameless name dropping. My freshman year in college at California University of Pennsylvania used to announce Jeff Castile's games. He was a linebacker at my alma mater. But anyway, our pick here, between the fact the odds makers have adjusted, it's crossed a key number. They've taken into account the suspensions, and yeah, this line is just over-adjusted too much. I'll go with Nevada plus the 8.5. In college basketball, Wisconsin and Ohio State. You know, in college football, we have the bubble burst, where essentially highly ranked teams, and especially if they're not in the SEC, when they lose, it can be such a deleterious, devastating loss, and virtually eliminates them from the national championship picture, especially, as I said, if they're not in the SEC, and it's tough for teams to bounce back. But quite the opposite in college basketball, where you can bounce back, and you do bounce back. 135, 93, and 6, top 4 teams off of the loss. I'm sorry, it's actually 239, 191, and 9, but a higher winning percentage at 59.2 at home, which is that 135, 93, and 6 record. Now, Kyle Young, starting forward for OSU, is out. And like I say, that when the superstar players are injured, if anything, there can be an over-adjustment. The odds makers are more than aware of it. Usually, it's the guys like Kyle Young, who are like the third and fourth best players on the team, where their injuries can sneak a little bit more under the spread radar. He averages 8 points per game, 67% shooting, 6.8 boards. Now, Jay Liddell will get extended playing minutes. He's averaging 7.6 points per game, 4.1 boards off of the bench this season. Ohio State is 10-3 ATS, second best record in the country. They're a plus 5.9 sweat barometer or margin of cover, as we had called it before someone renamed it, whatever. So they actually have the second best ATS record in the country. A little bit further down, though, when it comes to that margin of cover, but still been a great spread team. Ohio State is our winner. Georgetown at Seton Hall. Georgetown in a bubble burst as teams that hit the road after a 6-game or more winning streak was snapped, especially if they're not among the elite, actually are a little bit of a go against 359, 325, and 12. Now, the Hoyas' three seniors account for 38% of the team's points, and they've accounted for 48 over the last 5 games. But, especially right about the time conference play comes along and, you're 12 and 13, 14 games into a season, that's where the teams that are senior late and have a little bit of a point of diminishing return and tend to be a little bit overvalued. Seton Hall, last 3 games at home, outscoring teams by a 71.3 to 51.3. I'm going to lay the small number here. Good spot, Seton Hall minus the 6. Again, please visit us at offshoreinsiders.com. Everything that you need from a sports betting standpoint. You also got the home of the Master Lock line, which is the power of more than 600 sports services and computer sources, 600 sources behind each and every selection, and that goes back to the Score Phone days.